So this is for the subject risk management, and the topic for this specific video is risk management standards. Chapter 6 na po tayo. Link ng source material is in the description of the video. Okay? So first subtopic, scope of risk management standards. Yeah, ito medyo mahaba yung discussion, but we'll try to shorten it. So essentially, binanggit kasi dito na, maraming bodies around the world ang nag-try to come up with the risk management standards. So of course, you have standards body in Australia, and then you have in Canada, Japan, UK, and the US. Okay? So medyo marami. Iba-ibang standards body, yung ibang countries, tapos I have this, mga British standard, the ERN, the Australian standard, you have the Orange Book, ganyan. Okay? Anyway, risk management principles and guidelines, ito yung ISO. Okay? Tapos, organizations should select the approach that is most relevant to their particular circumstances. And ilang beses na rin naman natin nababanggit, depending on the situation ng particular organization, kumbaga, they would develop their own risk management plan na kayang i-address yung mga risk na exposed sila. Okay? Depending on their nature, the industry that they are operating in, yung kanilang size, complexity of their operations. Okay? So, hindi pwedeng, makigaya na lang tayo dun sa risk management plan, itong company na to, ganyan. Okay? Kumbaga, walang specific risk management plan that would apply to all organizations. And it's very specific, customized to the particular needs of an organization, right? Risk management standard sets out the overall approach to the successful management of risk, including description of risk management process, together with the suggested framework that supports that process. So, ang in-emphasize dito, yung isang risk management standard na i-apply syempre to create a risk management plan or risk management, kailangan ay, it's composed of the, risk management process and the risk management framework. Okay? Magkasama yung dalawang yun. Yung process itself, the 7 R's, and then you have your suggested framework. Yung suggested frameworks, mga policies, activities, guidelines within an organization. Kasi nga, naka-embed na dapat doon yung mga controls, okay, risk controls, na i-address yung mga risk na yun. So, yun, naka-embed na, and it does support yung aims ng risk management. Okay? Combination of a description of the risk management process together with the recommended framework. Okay? Ito yung mga risk management standards natin. Banggitin ko lang sa inyo para aware tayo na meron ito. So, ISO 31,000. So, you have standard published by the ISO in 2009. British Standard BS 31100. Standard published by British Standards Institution in 2008. Institute of Risk Management, IRM. They have a standard produced jointly by AIRMIC, Alarm, and IRM in 2002. Tapos yung COSO, ERM. I have your framework produced by the Committee of Sponsoring Organizations of the Treadway Committee. Okay, in 2004. Turnbull Report, framework produced by the Financial Reporting Council in 2005. Orange Book, standard produced by HM Treasury of the UK government in 2004. And then you have COCO, Criteria of Control, framework produced by the Canadian Institute of Chartered Accountants in 1995. Okay. One of the best established and most widely used risk management standards was produced by the IRM in 2002 in cooperation with MIC and Alarm. Ayan. Tapos yung IRM standard na yon aimed at non-risk management specialists and that has been translated into many languages. Yung Australian standard and COSO standard designed for use primarily by specialist risk management practitioners. Okay. COSO approach internationally recognized and in many instances ay mandated din. Okay? Sa New York Stock Exchange, ayan, ina-apply sila or required in accordance with Sarbanes-Oxley. Okay? So, ito yung IRM risk management process. Di ba previously, we've had 7 R's and the 4 T's. Dito naman, ito yung structure na binigay niya. So, you have the organization strategic objectives. Tapos, you go down and have the risk assessment. Dito sa risk assessment, kasama yung risk analysis. You have the identification, description, and estimation. Tapos, overall, you have to evaluate. And then you have your risk reporting ng threats and opportunities. And then you make the decisions. After that, you apply the risk treatments na napili na the management felt appropriate. And then you have the residual risk reporting after the application of treatment. Anong nangyari? May natira pa ba? Anong level na yung managed risk natin? Ganyan. And then, of course, you have your monitoring. Okay? And then, on that side, you have your formal audit kung na-implement ba ng maayos itong process na ito. Okay, baka mamaya ay on paper lang. And then, you have your modification if at any point merong mga changes, information na maging available, may ma-identify kayo na new risk, so you have to modify the risk management process. Okay? So, ayan. UK's Turnbull guidance. Ayan. Wala naman. And then you have your orange book. Mga nabanggit lang, ano. There are 3 distinct approaches followed in the various standards. So you have your risk management approach, and followed by the ISO British Standard and IRM Standard. Internal control approach, developed by COSO, and followed by Turnbull. And then you have your risk-aware culture, Canadian, and COCO framework. Okay? So essentially, you have the risk management. You manage the risk, internal controls. Yung focus is on development of internal controls that would reduce the uncertainties. And then you have the risk-aware culture approach. Kumbaga, have to make sure. Kasi, di ba, first, what do you call that? First step is acceptance na merong risk, presence of risk within the organization na kailangang i-address na gamitan ng risk management. So, ayan. Next, we have the risk management process. Many of the standards distinguish between the risk management process and the framework that supports the process. But essentially, both of them, go together to create the risk management plan or the risk management itself. Okay? Kaya hindi naman na masyado siyang, the distinction is not always clear kasi in a way they go hand in hand pa rin naman. Risk management framework. A standard is a document that produces information on both the risk management process and the risk management framework. Okay, so yun yung standard daw. Okay, it contains information on both the risk management process and the risk management framework. Okay, risk management activity should take place within the context of the business environment, as it should be, the organization, and the risk faced by the organization. Okay, syempre, yung risk management activities mo should address the risk. And those risks are present within the organization. Syempre, business environment. Tapos, a framework is required to support the process. So, essentially, isipin nyo na lang, framework is support. Okay? Okay. All of the established risk management standards refer to the risk management framework, although this is represented in different ways. Okay? Yung scope of risk management natin, di ba ito? Architecture, structure, and protocols. Ayan, illustrates the key features of a risk management framework that is built around and supports the risk management process. So, essentially, itong scope ng risk management framework, itong tatlo. Architecture, structure, and protocols. RASP. Risk, architecture, S. Structure, and protocols. I was trying to memorize. Architecture, structure, protocols. Ayan, itong three components na yan required for successful risk management activities. And then they need to facilitate communication and flow of risk information then. Okay? Part nitong, I think part ng architecture kailangan ay napafacilitate yung communication ng information. Right? So, ito yung components of a risk management framework. So, you have the risk management process at the center. Tapos, yung framework ay itong tatlo kasi nga they have to support the risk management process. The architecture defines rules, responsibilities, communication, and the risk reporting structure. Okay, so kumbaga para siyang policies or guidelines na ito yung pinopoint out. So, you have the rules, sino ba ang ating Chief Risk Officer or sino yung pinakang focal person na kailangan mag-address nitong risk natin. Okay? Then you have your responsibilities nga, ano yung mga kailangan nilang gawin, communication and risk reporting structure. Tapos yung strategy, ang inclusive dito, yung risk strategy na nga mismo. And then you have the appetite ng organization, risk appetite. Risk attitude, risk-averse ba sila or risk-aggressive? Philosophy, defined in the risk management policy. Okay? Risk protocols, defined in the risk guidelines for the organization and include the rules and procedures as well as the risk management methodologies. Okay? Dito sasama yung, treatments. Ano yung specific treatments for specific risk, tools and techniques that should be used. Okay? So, nakapaligid siya dun sa risk management process kasi nga they are all supportive of the process. Okay. Itong risk management process, yung direct related to risk. Okay. Identification ng risk, evaluation ng risk, ranking ng risk, and monitoring, assessment, reporting. Okay. Naputo pala. Ayan. COSO ERM Cube. So, itong COSO ERM approach naman suggests that enterprise risk management is not strictly a serial process. Okay? Kasi diba yung ating risk management process, you have your 7 R's na pababa siya, na parang step by step. Okay? Pero dito sa ERM Cube, hindi niya, parang sinasabi niya, it does not necessarily have to be a step-by-step process. Okay? Hindi siya series. Okay? It is considered to be multi-directional, iterative process. Iterative in a way na parang cycle lang siya. After mong matapos yung ika-7, di ba, using feedback, di ba pwedeng bumalik ka sa number 1 ulit if merong mga new risk na ma-identify, ganyan. Ayan. Tapos, in which almost any component can and does influence all other components. Okay? Dito sa ERM framework, there is a direct relationship between objectives and enterprise management components. Ayan. Yung objectives, what an entity strives to achieve. Tapos yung ERM components, what is needed to achieve them. So, parang support, to achieve yung objectives. Okay? So, dito, ito yung 8 interrelated components dun sa COSO ERM Cube. Right? So, yan. Aling 8 yan. Itong, wala na to. Okay, so you have your internal environment, and then you have your objective setting, event identification, risk assessment, risk response, control activities, information and communication, monitoring. In a way, kapag kinumpare mo to dun sa 7 RTs, parang, 7 RTs, 7 Rs and 4 Ts, ayan, parang halos yun din naman yung components. Ang pinopoint out lang dito sa cube is that it doesn't have to be a series of, steps. Pwedeng, etong lahat na to kasi, ayan, meron siyang interrelation dito sa strategies ng business, dun sa kanilang operations, reporting, and compliance. Lahat sila, merong kanya-kanyang role na piniplay dito sa mga aspects na to. And as well as dito, diba, you have your subsidiary, business unit, division, entity level. Okay? Management level, you have the lowest level, direct role in the operations, and then you have your middle managers, and then you have your top managers. Okay. Department managers, middle managers, top managers. Ayan. So, ayan. Pinapakita dito yung interrelation nitong lahat ng ito. Right? So, yung COSO ERM framework, discuss natin one by one. Internal environment encompasses the tone of an organization and sets the basis for how risk is viewed and addressed. Parang yung risk culture then within an organization. Kung ano yung currently, how do they look at the risk, or ano yung kanilang treatment of the risk. Kumbaga, how accepting are they of the risk management process na meron ang company. Kasi merong mga ibang tao kasi in denial na, bakit merong risk management? Parang wala namang risk, mangyayari pa rin yan, ganyan, or kung ano man. So, it's an internal environment. Objective setting. Objectives must exist before management can identify potential events affecting their achievement. Okay? Kasi diba, normally, companies, they do have goals and objectives, and yung kanilang operations, activities, kailangan in support ng achievement ng mga goals and objectives na yon. And yung mga makikita na risk na, presence within the organization, magiging significant lang yon sila if they are hindering the company from achieving their objectives. Event identification, so internal and external events affecting achievement of objectives must be identified, distinguishing between risk and opportunities. Kasi magkaiba sila ng treatment. Risk assessment, risks are analyzed, considering likelihood and impact as a basis for determining how they should be managed then. So, yung part na to, analysis ng risk. And then you have your risk response. Management selects risk responses. So, yung 40s natin, avoiding, accepting, reducing, or sharing the risk. Okay? Control activities, policies, and procedures are established and implemented to help ensure the risk responses are effectively carried out. Okay? Control activities. Information and communication, so relevant information is identified, captured, and communicated so that people can fulfill their responsibilities. They would need the information to act accordingly or to make decisions. Okay? Monitoring, the entirety of the enterprise risk management is monitored and modifications are made when necessary. Okay? So, ayan. 4 risk categories. So, yung strategic, yung pinakang top, high-level goals aligned with and supporting the mission. And then you have your operations, effective and efficient use of the resources. Reporting, reliability of reporting, kumbaga ay provides all the information needed by the decision makers. And then you have your compliance with applicable laws and regulations. Kasi required yan, right? Features of risk management standards. Ayan. Version of risk management process. Merong 5 stages. Risk management process, ito. So you have your identify the risk and then assess them, respond, report, and then review. Okay. Kumbaga ito yung main or, directly related sa risk mismo. Okay. You identify the risk, you assess them, you respond to it, and then you report, and then review. Okay. Tapos yung 3 components natin, strategy, architecture, what's the other? Standards. Okay. Risk management framework from BS 31100. Ayan, parang cycle siya, Alin ang start dito? Mandate and commitment. So, this pertain to the objectives, goals and objectives of the company. Tapos, framework design for managing the risk. So, kailangan naka-embed na yung controls, with the procedures, processes and procedures ng company. And then, you implement the risk management. After implementing, kailangan syempre i-monitor and i-review yung framework. And after that, na-review na, maintenance and improvement of the framework. Tapos, balik lang ulit dyan, cycle, It's a cycle, okay? Skip natin yung iba. Risk management process from ISO 31000. So, magkakapareho naman halos sila lahat. So, dito naman, you have your establishing the context. You have the risk assessment, identification, analysis, and evaluation. After that, you have the risk treatment. After nito, you have to monitor and review. On the other side, you have to communicate and consult the decision makers. Kung ano nang gagawin after. Okay? Tapos, magiging cycle na lang ulit yan. Establishing the context ulit kapag may panibagong risk na ma-determine ang kung sino man yung responsible for the risk management ng company. Okay? Control environment approach. So dito, the risk culture of the organization is the most important consideration. Ang discuss naman natin dito yung Canadian criteria of control framework. Okay? Yung framework, let's read this one. A person performs a task guided by an understanding of its purpose, yung objective, and supported by capability, yung information, resources, supplies, and skills. The person will need a sense of commitment to perform the task well over time. The person will monitor his or her performance and the external environment to learn about how to do the task better and about changes to be made. Okay, where were we? The same is true of any team or work group in any organization. At people, the essence of control is purpose, commitment, capability, and monitoring, and learning. Okay? So, essentially, yan yung COCO framework. And ang pinaka-main point is yung risk culture within the organization. Okay? Evaluate the risk-aware culture within an organization using the following: purpose, vision, and mission. So, parang objectives pa rin, Commitment to integrity and ethical values. For most organizations naman, they do have core values and they include that in their manuals. Capability, authority, and responsibilities. Learning and development of competence. Okay. So, ayan. Tapos, meron ditong case study ng Barclays Bank, Risk Management Objectives. You can just read this one, Tapos, yung kanyang risk management objectives dito at the strategic level, top level, identify the group's material risk and ensure that business profile and plans are consistent with risk appetite. So, for the most part, lahat naman ng company would have to do this. Optimize risk-return decisions by taking them as closely as possible to the business while establishing strong and independent review and challenges structures. Okay? To ensure that business growth plans are properly supported by effective risk infrastructure. To manage risk profile to ensure that specific financial deliverables remain possible under a range of adverse business conditions. And then lastly, to help executives improve the control and coordination of risk-taking across the business. So, since in a way medyo generalized pa to kasi nga strategic level, majority of businesses would have this kind of statements. And then yung pinakang details na lang with regards to the processes, yun yung magiging very specific to the organization. Okay? So, ayun lang naman ang discussion natin for Chapter 6. Kasunod na nito are the Module 3. We'll be covering Chapter 7, 8, and 9 for that. Okay, so that's it for this one. Thanks, and bye.